much better than that.
Not at all.
And they're in Hawaii, so it's pretty good for those guys.
So I guess it does get better than that.
It gets better for them.
Yeah,
Us
really.
here in Chicago, not so much. But anyway, this is a great matchup and a great test for this Indiana team. They are coming off of a Big Ten championship. But what do you expect to see from a team like Indiana this early with so much returning experience?
I think you want to, I'll go to a coaching perspective. What do coaches want to see? Because what we want to see as Big Ten people, we want to see Indiana go out and win this game. We want to see them run the table. We want to see them become champions again. That's kind of the way we see things. We want perfection. Well, from a coaching perspective, you want to see, execution. You want to see young guys come together. You want to see new leadership step up. No Yogi Ferrell, so you got point guard by committee. You want to see how those guys play together, how they make each other better. And you want to see Thomas Bryant expand his game a little bit. Something we're going to see a lot of is him stepping out to the perimeter. So it's not just a win and a loss. A win doesn't really matter here. A loss doesn't really matter here. It's not college football. So it's more of a learning experience. So even if they win, don't get too high. If they lose, don't get too low. It's a great experience. It's a great chance for them on a big stage, which they're going to be on all year, to come out, execute, and show us a little bit what they got.
You mentioned no Yogi Ferrell. And you've gotten to see a couple of practices or a practice of this team. So without Yogi Ferrell, where do you look on this team for leadership and to replace some of those stats?
Well, leadership is really top to bottom. I mean, for leadership, you can go all the way down to the strength and conditioning coach. And he's everywhere. If you've ever watched Indiana basketball, he's kind of their emotional heart and soul guy on the bench. And so leadership is from top to bottom. Leadership's also Colin Hartman, a guy who's not going to be playing this year, is out with an injured knee. So the leadership comes from everybody on the floor, including walk-ons and managers. I mean, and that's just the type of program that this is. But the production is what's most important right now for them. They have to figure out how to get the production from guys like James Blackman Jr., Robert Johnson, Josh Newkirk, the transfer from Pittsburgh. So you got to get the production from those guys, because this year it's going to be a little more point guard by committee. You've got to find out who the guy you could trust is, though. And that's, as a coach, you have to figure out who you can trust to have the ball in their hands, to make plays, to make teammates better. Because once you get into Big Ten play, it's not as much as just flying up and down the floor and scoring 100 points. I mean, you're going to see a lot of that in non-conference play. But when you get into the Big Ten season and you're challenged and teams know you really well, you need to have those one or two guys that can make a play down the stretch that you can trust to not turn the ball over and get his teammates good opportunities.
You mentioned Blackman and Johnson. They're coming off of injuries at the end of last season. What were you able to see from them with the practice that you were at, and how much should they be relying on those two guys to really have some production and a lot of production this season?
You should rely on them heavily. I mean, they look 100% if not 95. So these guys bounce back. They train very hard in the offseason. Their strength and conditioning is second to none in the country. And that's why they're as fit as they are. That's why they can play the fast pace that they play. And that's also why they can bounce back from injury. I mean, there is an attention to detail, the stick-to-itiveness, and a bunch of other dumb sports words that we use that would describe what these guys do, what they put into their off-season workouts, and how much they take care of themselves to be ready for college basketball season. So I would rely on them heavily, especially when you're questioning kind of where the point guard play is going to come from. Josh Newkirk's new. Yes, I think down the stretch, he's a great guy to have on the floor. He can make good decisions. He's very physical as a defender. But I think to start this season, you've got guys like James Blackman Jr. and Robert Johnson who've been out there. They understand what it takes. And sitting out, and I want to touch on this, sitting out is key. You learn a lot when you sit out. You realize how simple the game is.
We've heard that from a lot of athletes.
Tracy Abrams, a 6-year guy who sat out 2 years in a row, and I asked him about it, and he said, gosh, I feel like the game is a lot simpler than we make it. And I think that's something you're going to see from both Robert Johnson and James Blackman Jr. this year, that you slow down a little bit. Yes, they're going to play fast pace. Yes, they're going to get up and down the floor, play with a lot of rhythm and tempo. But the game to them is going to appear a lot slower, and that's what makes them in much more control.
How much rhythm should we be seeing in game one, though, from this team? Because once they're in rhythm, this team just starts clicking on all cylinders. Yeah, it's great to watch. It's great basketball, and they're seemingly unstoppable. But in game one, how much of that is there actually going to be?
I think they'll be similar to an NBA team early in the season, where it's kind of come and go. It's kind of not consistent, but you have a good spurt for 4 minutes and then you have a couple bad minutes. And I think you got to live with that. Coaches are going to be patient. Coach Tom Crean is very patient with his players. He lets them make mistakes, lets them learn on the fly. I mean, something you saw last year with Troy Williams, and he kicked the ball out of bounds, but he hung in there with him. Victor Oladipo in his career, boot the ball out of bounds, make bad mistakes, but he hung in there with him. I think that's what you're going to see a lot of early. You just have to be patient, because once this team gets going offensively, they are tough to stop.
All right, John, thank you so much. For more Indiana news, highlights, and analysis, head to btn.com/Hoosiers.